Lowell is the CEO of Verizon. So everybody who has a Verizon phone, raise your hand. Can you hear him now? Sorry, I couldn't resist. Lowell's been one of the architects of the global wireless industry, and over the past 3 decades, he's led the development of the wireless business. Outside of Verizon, Lowell's a trustee of Cornell University and serves on the board of a little company called General Electric. But what I'd like to most recognize Lowell for is his service to our country in the U.S. Navy Civil Engineer Corps. Lowell, thank you and welcome.
Thank you all, and good evening. I know it's a pleasure for all of us to be introducing the awardees tonight, but it is a special honor for me to introduce John. Not only has he been a valued colleague, but he's been a dear friend for a number of years. And I would just say there's no one better to receive the Owen B. Butler Education Excellence Award. So the word legend, I think, is overused today, but not in the case of John Chambers. For one thing, John has served as the CEO of Cisco for 20 years. Now, I've been the CEO of, I'll say, a smaller company tonight, John, for 5 years. Doing this for 20 years, think about it, you know? And he looks good, too, doesn't he? You know, over that period, it's astonishing what John's been able to accomplish. When he took over, their revenues were 70 million with an M, and when he turned it over to his successor, the CE role, 47 billion with a B. Too many CEOs drive it the other way. And one of the things John is known for is he's totally transformed that business at least 3 times during that period. Cisco's been named to the Fortune Most Admired list 8 times. He has more awards for being one of the top CEOs than I can count. And one of his hallmarks that I think John will always be known for is his deep conviction that the business success is inextricably linked to the well-being of the society in which Cisco operates. John spent a lifetime using his energies, both personal and professional, to make the world a more equitable place for all. He believes, and I quote, that education and the internet are the 2 great equalizers for the world. And he's been a pioneer in actually using the internet to break down barriers to education and spread the benefits of the digital economy around the globe. So whether it's the Jordan Education Initiative championed with the World Economic Forum and King Abdullah of Jordan, or the 21st Century Schools Initiative he started in the Gulf Coast after Hurricane Katrina. And by the way, he went in there on his own and did that. He didn't wait for a whole bunch of other companies. We all followed him. Or the Cisco Networking Academy that enrolls, ready for this, 1 million people a year in over 165 countries around the world to prepare them for careers in the digital economy. Or the countless partnerships he and Cisco have participated in with education nonprofits to promote STEM education and employment in underserved communities in the U.S. and around the world. John is the model for all of us in how to use technology to solve social problems on a global scale, close the digital divide, and equalize economic opportunity. John's belief in the transformational powers of education may have something to do with being married to a former school teacher for 40 years, or maybe it dates back to his grade school days when the influence of one dedicated tutor, I think her name was Mrs. Anderson, helped him tackle the dyslexia that caused the other teachers to say John would never amount to much and would not go to college. Who has the last laugh here? John has been brilliantly candid in talking about how he turned the weakness of dyslexia into a strength. John says it taught him to think exponentially, not in linear ways, enabling him to go from A to B to Z, while the rest of us with more conventional brains are still on C and D. A couple of years ago, I spoke at a Cisco meeting and heard John give the opening keynote. And if you've ever had the chance to do that, they're always memorable. One of his messages was that 2/3 of established companies would simply not exist in 20 years. They were doomed to extinction by complacency and defensive thinking. He got my attention, and that of the other CEOs in the room as well. And that's one of the things John does so well. He pulls you along with him, whether you know you're following him or not, because he has such great logic. His quote, "Disrupt or be disrupted," is the motto of successful companies. I believe he would argue the same can be said for education. If we can use technology to solve the big problems in business, there's no reason we can't do the same in society. So, John, I want to congratulate you on your award tonight. I'm very proud to be your friend and your colleague. I'm inspired by your optimism and challenged by your belief in our ability as business people to change the world for the better as we go from A to B to Z when it comes to educating people for the challenges of the digital age. Ladies and gentlemen, John Chambers.
Lowell, I want to thank you for such kind comments. It means the world to me. And I think all of us in leadership know that it's your peers that understand your strengths and your limitations. And I want to thank you for how you've positioned for the comments I'm about to make. As several of my colleagues, and it's an honor to be among the award recipients this evening, have articulated well, it's really about the accomplishments of your team and your organization that allow a CEO or chairman to receive these awards. There is none more important to me than either innovation or education. And I looked at the recipients from past years, all three of which were very good friends. My parents were both doctors. They educated me very early in West Virginia that as long as you were in the right country, in the right city within a state, that if you had a great education, you had a very good future. When I came to Cisco, I learned that the internet was the second equalizer in life. And if you combined a great education, and I'm so proud to be from West Virginia, and I want to give a special shout out to the West Virginia University, Gordon Gee, and the entire team here tonight. Thank you for being here. It educated 4 generations of my family before me. And it makes such a difference. But by combining the internet and education, you suddenly could bring education in a way we haven't done before. And that's where Cisco, I think, kind of created a different mold for education for where the jobs of the future would be, not where they've been in the past. And we've educated 6 million men and women around the world. It's exactly what each one of us want to believe in our heart. There is no different scores between right and the heart economically of a New York City or a Palo Alto or Afghanistan. If you give young men and women a chance and you give them a potential of a job, their scores are identical in terms of the opportunity. There's no social promotion. We educate 1 million students a year in 180 countries approximately. We will move that up to 2 million. And now we're looking at how bringing that down through all of the education system. Lowell articulated we're probably involved in a dozen major other educational opportunities all over the emerging markets, in areas with City Year here in New York, connecting Sichuan in China, and other opportunities when changes take place. It'd be so easy to say thank you and stop at this point. But I want to share with you, I think, the biggest opportunity facing this nation and the biggest challenge facing our education system. The internet changed things dramatically, but it was an inflection point. The inflection point you're about to see occur is around a digital world that will completely transform every country, every city, every state, every business. Those who don't get transformed will get left behind. The economic impact is $19 trillion according to our estimates. McKinsey said that's off by a factor of twofold over the next 10 years. That's 1 to 3 points of incremental GDP growth for every country in the world. It takes what President Clinton did, and I'm from the other political party, but I have to give him tremendous credit in the 90s. He grasped what the internet era meant to the future of this country, and this country led. And I was honored to be at the White House session behind the press podium there with President Clinton on one side, Vice President Gore on the other, and I had the honor to be representing business. I was scared to death. But he articulated what was possible, and nobody really believed that the internet would really change GDP, job creation, and average income. We believed it because we saw what could happen in business and the leverage point. In the 8 years under his leadership, 22.5 million jobs were created, 18% growth in real GDP, 17% growth in real per capita income of the average American family. We haven't had a raise in total since then. Incomes are actually down versus 2000. The digital era will offer the exact same opportunity, except at higher numbers. I think it's very realistic that regardless of which president wins, if she or he will really take leadership here, instead of talking and proud of 200,000 jobs per month, it should be 300,000. Incrementally, 25 to 30 million new jobs. And the ability to give the average American a raise again in a major way. Out of the companies in this room, I want to challenge you, because it won't be just 2/3 that don't exist in 20 years. 40% plus of you would disappear in the next 10. And when we first shared that with automotive companies, they said, John, you've got market transitions right, but we're not so sure this is going to happen. When you talk to Ford or GM now, they understand if they don't become a digital company quicker than an Apple and a Google and an Uber and Chinese challengers become a manufacturing company, they will get left behind. And that's going to occur in every industry. And the job disruption is going to be tremendous. Out of the jobs in America, conservatively 30%, aggressively 50% of what we do every day will be done by robotics and artificial intelligence in the next 10 years. That if we don't take a step back and say that if we don't move dramatically faster on education, not once it becomes an obvious problem, but dramatically faster, we will not only get the opportunities for the uptakes that we just talked about, we will make the digital divide much worse than it is today. And it's a topic we are not talking about as a nation. We are the only nation in the world that does not have a digital plan. In France, a socialistic country with socialistic leaders is partnering with Cisco to digitize the whole country, to create 1 million new jobs in 3 years, to bring the capability to every citizen in France, smart cities across the board, to become the startup nation of Europe. The startup nation of Europe. Now, how many of you would go to France for business and startups? And when we said this 2 years ago, we would partner with the country. In January and February, March of this year, they outproduced all of their peers in Europe by a huge margin on venture capital investment in French startups. India, Prime Minister Modi has a digital plan for his entire country. He's basing the future of the country on that, not with economic growth of 5%, and isn't that great, or even 7% per year. He believes, and he will be right, he can grow it at probably 10 to 12% and change the lives of 1.3 billion people in India. But what is interesting in France and in India and Italy and Germany and the UK and in China, all those countries have a digital plan, including Japan, Prime Minister Abe. They know, however, that if they don't retrain their existing workforce, if they don't change their education system dramatically, they will have not only social unrest, they'll miss the window. I think all of us know our K through 12 system in this country is completely broken. We're non-competitive on a global basis. And while I'm a huge believer in STEM, let me be very direct, 90% of the jobs created in the future will require technology skills. We've got to capture our young people, especially in the diversity ranks of gender, color, religion, early in their careers. And it needs to be in junior high. We need a national digital plan, and we need a national education plan. And while our colleges are the very best in the world, our delta versus our global competitors is getting smaller. And our colleges aren't thinking about what does a digital world really mean in terms of what I teach in business school and engineering. I think we control our own destiny here. In France, we're going to take the education of not 200,000 French men and women in 3 years on the network academies, up from what would have been 30,000. We will take the education system and bring it to their equivalent of junior high to capture their young people's imagination, especially on the diversity side, before they decide that being techie is geeky and I don't have an interest, and we've got to make it interesting. And if it works in that first 100,000 students, they will take it across their whole nation. Tell me why America should not be leading here. Tell me why we should feel we are entitled to the next leadership arena. We are not. Just because we led in the information era as a country does not mean we'll lead for the next 2 decades. So my challenge to us in this room is why I'm tremendous honored on behalf of Cisco to receive this award, and it means the world to me. I think we've got to begin to have the national debate, not just about why we don't even have a digital plan for the country. We're the only country in the world that does not have one. But how we are playing this out piecemeal as though we're entitled to a future. And we've got to get a debate off that thinks that our problems with jobs creation and our problems with the ability for Americans to have a pay raise is due to globalization and forward trade. Those are cop-outs. Our issue is we're not addressing it with the education system, and we're not addressing where this market is going to go. We at Cisco are committed to not having done just a good job in the past, but transforming and playing a role in this on a global basis. I'd like to challenge each of you in the room over this next year, regardless of who our next president is, to say we cannot wait until this problem becomes obvious 3 to 5 years from now, when almost every company in this world will already be a digital company. You have no choice. And a number of us will not survive the next 5 or 6 years after that. But for our young people and to not retrain our workforce, as France is doing and Germany is doing and in India is doing, would be a missed opportunity. So I'm honored on behalf of all Cisco to accept this award tonight. But I'd like to make you a little bit uncomfortable as you walk out of here, saying America deserves better. And it has to come from the business community on the lead. Thank you very much. Tremendous honor. Have a good day.